From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief technologist at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's show, I have copywriting with Todd Jones, and we're going to do an AMA. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show. This episode is brought to you by All-in-One WP Migration, the most trusted WordPress migration plugin with over 60 million sites served. Whether you are switching hosts, changing domains, or moving to a new server, All-in-One WP Migration makes it one click. Try it for free at WordPress.org or visit servemass.com for pro features. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here, and today I have my guest, Mr. Todd Jones. It's copywriting time. Hey Todd, how you doing?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Arkansas is
You're wearing
stinking
your Toronto. You're wearing your Toronto. Is that the which Toronto is that?
Raptors. Yeah.
And I got my red and white on. I guess you might say it's Razorback work colors. I don't know, but
I'm just kind of chilling today. It's stinking hot. Our mutual friend, Mr. Ryan Waterbury, was complaining about Minnesota being hot. I think it's a North American.
he blamed Arkansas. He blamed Arkansas for Minnesota's weather. Like now, there's a high pressure. There's a massive high pressure that has moved back in our area, which affects Minnesota as well, and Arkansas, and it's just like.
And by the way, and Ontario too. So
yeah, it's affecting you guys as well. But last week it was a couple weeks. It was cut out toward California, so we had a little bit of relief, and it's come back. But I think it's a couple of days, and then it's going to be out of here. I think we're going to get some kind of disturbance from the Gulf that's going to kick it out, hopefully. Yeah. So anyway,
somehow I convinced you, or you let me agree to do an AMA. And you see this book? It's like full of questions. Not quite, but you know.
So, I'll have a whole lot of. Let me get back to you on that.
Yeah.
AMAs are fascinating. It's the first time I've actually been the subject of one. I kind of was before, but I'm in a subreddit with Ann Smarty runs the subreddit, AI for SEO or whatever it's called, and she does a great job. And she's had a few AMAs that I participated in, and one of them was Cyrus Shepard, SEO expert, and one of them was Lily Ray, SEO expert. But there's some others as well, but those two are like interesting to me because I follow both Cyrus and Lily, both on Substack and Twitter, LinkedIn, and they're constantly putting out stuff that I pay attention to. So it was really cool to be part of an AMA, which they were the ones who were being asked. And I asked, and Ann's like sending me a message. Can you ask a question? I think she was worried that nobody'd ask questions. Like, yeah. So I got to try to ask something that sounds reasonably smart. And I did. And she doesn't ask me anymore. So, but the people who are participating, she gets really good response from people asking questions. So she don't have to ask me anymore, but it's been fun to listen to people in the SEO. I don't consider myself an SEO expert, but it bleeds over into everything we do, right? SEO. So anyway,
so,
I'll try to answer best I can.
So we'll be fair. And I just thought we'd throw some 5 or 6 questions out there that people ask all the time, and see what kind of responses we get. So the first one, and here we go, is why should I care about copywriting?
Do you want to sell your services or your products?
Yeah.
That's what copywriting is. I mean, it's the words you use, not just words, because any commercial you watch on TV, a copywriter is behind usually behind the direction, perhaps even the script. Radio, ads, all that stuff is basically copywriting. So copywriting, people put a lot of emphasis on words, which really is kind of a sad thing, because once AI came, everybody's like, oh, we have a word generator. Well, then they realize after about 3 years of this that it's not about word. It is about words, but it's not just words. Words is like the end result. Like it's the final mile, if you will, using logistics terminology there. To get to those words, there's a whole lot of thought, intentionality, psychology, consumer behavior, all that stuff goes into it. And so, but anyway, copywriting is direct response copywriting in particular is usually like if you get a sales letter in the mail. Remember, we used to get those. Sometimes we still do. If you are
real estate agents still send them out every day.
Yeah, not just real estate. Usually, it's big in the like supplements and health industry. I had a connection who just retired, by the way. Her name is Kim. She was in that industry for a long time, and that's what she did. She wrote these letters. They're like 5, 6, 7-page letters, and but in the modern era, it's what you would call a sales page on a website at the end of a funnel. So those are very long, if you've noticed, because they're trying to do a lot of different things. And so copywriting is responsible, in my opinion, for both the attention, like the awareness, the nurturing, the bringing people closer to the sale, and then the closing of the sale. It is sales with words. So why should you care about copywriting? And, I think it brings home the sale, if you will. Some people will say copywriting, especially on websites, is like having your own salesperson that is on the web page that works 24/7, not just web page, landing pages and stuff, but also emails. A lot of people sell through emails. So copywriting is the words you use to bring people into your, company, become customers.
So that transitions to question number 2 of this AMA. What's the 3 most important things in your copy?
What are the most important things?
3 most important things.
3 most important things?
Yeah.
Well, I think one is going to be like, who is your target audience, right?
Yep.
And this is not just a copywriting thing. I remember when I first started reading Copy Blogger back in like 16 years ago. That was like one of the first things I learned from Brian Clark. He's like, oh, you got to know your customer, right? So what, are they a Toronto fan? Are they an Arkansas fan? Are they more the Minnesota Vikings? Whatever that, that's a cursory thing. We really pay attention to psychographics as much or more than demographics. So what motivates somebody to make a decision, those kind of things. So that would be probably the first. Second, knowing yourself as a business, like who are you? What do you stand for? What do you stand against? What are you selling? Yeah. What's your voice? What are you selling? What is your, what are the features and benefits of the product or service you're selling? I think that kind of, those are kind of like the same side of the, two different sides of the same coin, in my opinion, but you got to know that. And then I think at that point, it's just like, how do you build trust? That would be my third thing. It's like, how do you build trust? And my de facto answer for that is storytelling. Storytelling, there's a whole lot of science behind that. If you're listening, if you think this guy's nuts, go look up a guy named Paul Zak, Z-A-K. He did some studies, and they learned that storytelling can help release the chemical oxytocin in our brain, which is what we call the love hormone, the same hormone that women have when they bond with their baby. So it's a trust hormone, basically. So yeah, I think what knowing your customer, knowing yourself or your own brand, and then trust. Those would be the 3 things I would say.
Yeah. And by the way, we should, I know we're doing an AMA, but we should, before we move on to number three, establish copywriting was you were kind of alluding to your website, but that also goes to your email copy. It goes to the
Hmm.
Substack you write, your newsletter
Yeah,
you write, and wherever
yeah.
else you use copy. So I think that's really important. Third question, should you write for AI, SEO, or the reader?
Well,
Hmm.
it's a trap. It's a trap, not a trap to me. Our friend Maddie came out with a book a few years ago, and I think you had her on about it. Write for what is it? Writing for Humans and Robots.
Yes,
Kind of a play on this. That was before AI, right? So
I own
AI
the
wasn't
book.
even in the. Yeah, it wasn't even in the. It wasn't even in the conversation yet. But I think you go back and you write for the human being
Humans.
first, but while keeping in mind that there are elements of we're still discovering what gets put in AI overviews and that kind of thing. And I read a great article on Substack today about she talked about entity authority. I thought it was fantastic, and I actually plan on having my own take on that. But yeah, I mean, I think the robots, the way SEO is done, the writing for robots thing, I think we've kind of passed that now because they have matured. That part of everything has matured to the point where you don't have to put in a certain amount of keywords in a piece of content. That isn't and this has happened. This has happened way before AI, right?
Yeah.
Entity is the word. Years and years, like probably 14, 15 years ago, Google, the systems that run Google and the search engines really started to connect the dots better. So they understood synonyms. That was a big deal. Oh, well, they understand synonyms. Now, you don't have to use the same word 50 times in a piece of content. You can actually use 5 different words that mean the same thing because they understand
Yeah.
synonyms now. So the context, the robots or whatever you want to call it, the algorithms, they all understand better than they did 15 years ago context. And so I think the ideal of writing specifically for robots really out the door, in my opinion. Context, we're human beings. We understand context. The algorithms, the search engines, and so forth understand it better now than they did 15 years ago. So my thing is, if you are unsure, you have experts, SEO experts, people like Lily Ray and Ann Smarty and Cyrus Shepard. They help people with that stuff. But for the average person that's listening to your radio or to your podcast, just write for humans.
Yeah.
Do that first. If you need that kind of help, you could hire an SEO expert like the ones I mentioned. But your first line of defense, in my opinion, is writing for humans.
Yeah. And I would say, before we move on, one thing you mentioned you were talking about earlier was writing. You were talking a little bit about competition and things like that. And that's where SEO and copywriting overlap big time, is in the SEO world. We do competitors research all the time. And I think if you're copywriting, you probably want to do some of that as well, I would think. But
I have a little different take on that.
go ahead.
I would say do your competitive research, but it's just how I think. Okay, not so that you can copy it, but to see what to do different.
Yes, I
Uh,
agree.
so that gives you a position. A lot of people do it and then they copy it. No, don't do
It
that.
comes
Do
back
it.
to my
What is yeah? What is everybody else doing? Okay, I'm going to do differently. I'm going to do
yeah,
something
it
different.
comes back to my number one book in this space called The Inside Advantage by Robert Bloom.
Yeah.
And what he talks in that book is how to make your business different. And if you haven't read it, yeah, it's about 10 or 15 years old, but still more relevant today than ever before. Go read it. What's the biggest mistake people make in copywriting?
Um. Well, that's always going to be an opinion, right?
Mhm.
I'm going to say corporate jargon. I guess that's kind of standing out to me right now because I was looking at a website a while ago. I don't remember who the website was by, but I'm like, this is full of like corporate jargon. Like, The average person doesn't read corporate jargon.
Nope.
So you got to be, your language has got to be, well, like you're having a cup of coffee with somebody at down at the coffee shop, or a brew with somebody down at the local pub. you know, that's we all feel like, and I think it's becoming more important now. I think people are seeing it more now, but we all, it's very, very much corporate marketing jargon. And then if you're a huge, actually it's kind of funny if you go to a lot of big corporate websites and look at their, not their investor facing, they have two websites basically. They have one for investors, right? And then they have one for you and me. If you look at the websites they have for you and me, they don't use corporate jargon that much. The big ones,
That's correct.
they use like normal language. They have a voice and so forth but if you go to their investor website, yeah, there's more corporate jargon there because they understand that stuff. They're looking for that. But if you're doing a website, you're just a jewelry store, or you're a SaaS company or whatever, corporate jargon will cause people to bounce. It will confuse them, and you will lose them. To quote Jeff Jarrett, if you confuse them, you'll lose them. So I think a big mistake a lot of people make now is to try to be fancy with their language and end up saying a bunch of vague stuff, not very specific, and people, it is confusing. It's not clear. So that would be my answer off the top of my head.
I would agree with it. I would say that is not just to copywriting. That's to do with all business. If you can't speak the language of your audience, you have a problem. I mean, it's very simple.
And it probably, it says something about who wrote the copy for your site. Either they were trying to be that way, or sometimes comms people would write website for years, and they're used to writing things for corporate language. Maybe so copywriters can help you cut through that stuff. So you hire a good copywriter, they can help you like make your language more down to earth and speak the language of your customers, that kind of thing. So
we've managed to get through 4 or 5 questions, and we haven't talked about the 2 most dreaded letters in the marketing web online space yet. And I used the word yet. So those 2 letters are AI. And the question is...
We've talked about that on that show. We've talked about it on this show before.
Not really. But the question is, should I or should I not use AI when I am writing my copy?
We've had that discussion before, but that's okay. We'll do it again. Well, you have 2 opinions on this, and they dominate the scene. You have one that AI should never write anything for you. It's this, that, and the other. And you have the other side that's like AI for everything. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And ironically, I said this the other day. Ironically, AI has exposed that people really don't understand content writing and copywriting very well. The mechanics behind it, the process behind it. So you go to ChatGPT and you're like, hey, write me a homepage about blah, blah, blah. And especially in the early days, it bangs it out and you're like, hey, that's pretty good. And then you realize that, it's missing stuff, right? It's not specific. It just said something. It actually probably wrote that corporate jargon that I just talked about, and it's not really that good. There's a process that every writer, copywriter, content writer, has a process to get to the words. They may slightly be different per person, but they all have a similar trajectory. You start with like research, and you're researching the customer, you're researching the company, and you're playing with ideas, and you're trying to you're trying to hit the messaging and build a positioning and all this kind of stuff, and where you ever write. And that's the problem. People go to their copy content, and none of that pre stuff is done. You're doing it backwards, in my opinion. You're asking that, and then you're sitting there trying to feed it stuff. So my opinion, the ideal way of using AI is to write or voice dictate your thought, your essay, your idea, your copy, or whatever, and edit it. And maybe AI can help you polish it a little bit, get the formatting correct. But if you're careful, you can edit out the voice. You got to keep the voice. There's a whole concept on how to do all that, which I've spent the last year and a half learning how to do, and it's built into the website copy system, which I have. But so I say, if you're the average business owner, just talk to or just listen to a guy on LinkedIn I know say that AI made him a better writer because it forced him to think about some of these things. Absolutely. But if you're the average business owner, my opinion, if you're going to use AI, is to write or dictate your thoughts first, and then let AI make it
massage it.
Not so rough, not so kind of polish it up a little bit, but you also can't let it polish out your voice. You got to figure out what that is, and there's a whole way to do that. But if you're not really a very good writer and you're trying to use AI, that would be my suggestion. Either write it, terrible first draft, write it and let it help you edit it. Or there's another word they're using in copywriting about the first draft, and I'm not going to use that word. It'd be a little bit of a cursing there. But your crappy first draft, because that's something that we do anyway. Write that crappy first draft, and then we edit it. That's how we did it before AI. Just you had a human editing it, right? And then you had Grammarly come into play, and you had ProWriter's Aid. And now we use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever to edit, which is fine. So that would be my suggestion. Don't give it a simple prompt, probably, because it's just going to. And the other thing you have when you don't inform it with the information that it needs, you run the risk of it hallucinating and giving incorrect information, because it may or may not get the information correct. So you want to make sure you've got that information correct. You don't want to hallucinate. So I think that really what you want to do is you want to give AI the pile of information or the pile of stuff you want to say and let it edit it for you within your own voice. I don't know if that really answers the question, but there is a way to use it. And I actually, a lady I know who's a really good copywriter, I watched her write on LinkedIn the other day. She had just created 2 chapters for her book using WhisperFlow, which is a dictation software that I've only come to learn about recently. And it was just a time saver for her. Well, WhisperFlow, I think there's a lot of experts now, right? People going into consulting. Maybe they worked at corporate and lost their job, got laid off, whatever. And so now they're going into consulting. You have people who listen to the show who are expert service providers. That's what they do. They have expertise. Right. They 20 years in business, whatever. They're trying to get information out of their brain and something useful to people. And maybe they're not a great writer or whatever. That doesn't mean they can't get that information out. Use something like WhisperFlow. Sometimes I fire up Neato, our video screen share service that we use, and just riff. That's what I call it, riffing. I start riffing on the topic at hand. I'll take that transcript to Claude, and within my parameters of like, this is how I talk, let's clean this up, let's format it, whatever. That is an excellent thing for an expert to do who maybe isn't the best writer, is to use WhisperFlow or Loom or whatever you want to use, anything that can provide a transcript for you. That's what you want. You want a transcript. And so Loom, Neato, Whisper, all those things will do that for you. And then you can use Claude with a good prompt to edit for you and keep your voice. And that's the best way for a consultant to use writing and AI to bridge that gap. Now, there's another option as well. You can actually get a ghostwriter, which there are people who do that. That's what they do. They ghostwrite things like newsletters, Substacks, LinkedIn posts, whatever.
Books.
Yeah, books. Yeah. Hey, I've got a friend that his name is Sean. He's really good at that. He does the book stuff. But one thing that I could do for people for sure, I think, is email mini courses through email, and that's a fun thing for me, and I have ideas on that. But that's a form of ghostwriting that an business expert could use something like that. You have the information in your head. You've got 20 years of experience, and not just knowledge, but like experience and a point of view. You just got to get that out. Sometimes you need people help. But doing a voice dump is a great thing. Like, you get a topic and just do a voice dump. And then you can always take the transcript to Claude or a ghostwriter and clarify it, get it more clear for you.
Yeah. So it brings me to my next question. Is Claude the best AI tool for copywriting, or would you use something else?
Yeah, all things considered, for me, I like Claude, but somebody was trying something I put out the other day over the weekend, Friday, maybe it was, a guy in a group I'm in. I put up a page that I'm about to roll out a e-course for, but it's like you get access to this if you sign up for my newsletter. I haven't done it yet. And it's like a extremely light version of the website copy system, very and he took it and he put it in, he used the prompt with his answers in Claude and ChatGPT, and he felt like ChatGPT did a better job.
Okay.
Me personally, I think from the editing standpoint, the way I want copy to read, I like Claude. But ChatGPT still does a good job too. I use Gemini a lot, mostly for structuring. I'm not crazy about its copywriting, part of it, but it's excellent for building like a structure for an article or something like that, or help me sort through some of my notes and that kind of thing. So, but I think everybody's going to have a different answer to that. But I think Claude is a little bit better, but I think others are catching up a little bit.
Yeah. I think you're better off sooner or later standardizing on one, because what will happen is that AI product or LMN or whatever you want to use is going to sooner or later figure out your voice and figure
Oh
out
yeah, absolutely.
things. So I'll give
Yeah.
you something very simple. My last name is spelled with a C.
Yeah.
And you know that most AI products will change it to a K
Yeah.
right away, except the one they use on a regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've trained it, but you don't have to wait like months to train it. You can train, and the thing about LLMs now, and all of them pretty much can do this. You can lock that in, and Claude is terrific for this. They've got the skills feature now, which I build skills on the fly. One skill you could actually build on the fly is like, this is how I talk. Here's five articles I've written. Here's 5 emails I've written. Here's 5 social media posts. Here's a book that I wrote. And build a voice for me from this with it. And in that voice, I want you to spell my name correctly, which is Cairns. And it will create a skill. And whenever you go to edit something, or you take a transcript, put it in there, you run that skill, and that skill will edit it according to your voice, and should, if you set up the skill, put your name in correct as well. And ChatGPT has skills now. I think Perplexity has skills, but you have to be on the paid account.
No question.
I mean, skill is a game changer. Gemini has not done that yet, actually, but I have taken a skill from that was made for Claude and turned it into a gem. So the skill file is not even readable by Gemini. You have to extract it into to pull out the markdown. Skills are amazing. I think, though, you're right in general. Like, the more you work with something, the better it will remember things like that.
The better it works.
But these days, you don't have to wait 6 months to do that. In fact, now you can import. Like, you could, if you said, I don't want to use ChatGPT anymore, you should be able to export like all that stuff and move it into Claude. It's just phenomenal what you can do. In fact, I think most of us, not all of us, but most of us will be using, a lot of us will have a hub, and we will use like I have a Typing Mind account, which is allows me to hook up several you can
Mm-hmm.
both the open source as well as the on the ones that are not, like OpenAI, whatever. But you with those kind of setups, you basically connect the API. So you pay for the API. You actually probably would get more use out of like, your tokens will go further that way. I've heard people say. And so in order to use those and to conserve your tokens, you are better to use system files that will do that for you. I haven't. I still go into Claude and I still go into Chat GPT, and I still go into Gemini, and I have Quinn. I use Quinn a lot, but I think we'll see people once we can figure out how to do it without breaking a bank. Many of us will have our own. Those that are heavy users will have their own LLM on their computer, and they'll connect all that stuff, kind of like what Ryan's trying to set up now. I would like to be at that point sometime too, but these computers I have will not do it. There's just not enough RAM in either one of them together, probably not even enough to run that. And then the cost has gone up, so it's going to be a while, but I think you'll see some people offer those as a cloud. So instead of like having to have it on your computer, you go to a cloud storage and you set up, and there's already some out there. Actually, they usually start about $50 a month. You go there, you set up a container, and in the container you can install you can install a hub that puts that allows you to connect to all the different LLMs. It's mind boggling, honestly. So I think the future, like in the next year or two, is just going to look a lot different. We're going to be able to work with open source more. There's a lot of open source out there. Most people don't even know that. We just know ChatGPT, right? I mean, if you really want to play with some open source, go to get you a Hugging Face chat account, and you can play with some of the open source. Gemini has Gemma, which is, Gemini is really good for like coding and stuff like that. Quinn is good as well. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, to be quite honest with you. Some are good for reasoning. Hermuz is the research de facto. Everybody loves Hermuz. Have you ever played with Hermuz? It's supposed to be a research one.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is we're going to see some consolidation too before it's out. It's like
some will probably get bought out, whatnot.
But even more so, if you remember the days of search engines, I was saying to somebody the other day, I was
Alta
remembering
Vista and Lycos.
Lycos was exactly where I was going, and Yahoo and all of those, and when it's all come out in the wash, there's two or three and a couple small ones, and that's the end of it. So
well, and half of the ones run off of either Bing or Google. So basically, you have Bing or Google. That's pretty much what you have. And
it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So the last question for the day is, how do we get rich? No, 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 no. If we had that formula, we wouldn't be talking to you guys. So, but it's really, if I'm a writer and I'm complaining my writing's not very good and my copywriting's even worse, and I don't want write more as the answer, how do I improve my copywriting?
But that is the answer. I mean, I don't mean to be. I mean, Brian Clark from Copyblaggers put out it was an article probably 15, 16 years ago, and it was basically 1, right, 2, right again, 3, right. I mean, I don't mean this to be pessimistic, and so if you can't write every day and all that stuff, you're probably gonna. But you do got to write now. Writing is everything from writing your thoughts about something to. I'm not talking about writing to publish every day. But I do have like a friend, Alan Dragoo, who's a copywriter. He's like, oh yeah, I get up at 4 o'clock every morning and I start writing with my espresso. I'm like, man, I'm happy you can do that. I can't do that. But he makes a point. Write every day. Then you got to take time to write. But a busy business owner don't always have the time to do that. You have to, the best way to get better is to write more. And you get better when you write more.
Let's hold that for a second. Busy business owners don't have time.
No.
Before we went to air this, you and I were talking about a guest I have coming up. that I'm recording with on March the 7th or 8th or somewhere around there.
You mean
He's a business
August, not March?
August.
Yeah.
August, thank you. And he's a business coach. And what we're going to talk about is how to improve your business and get rid of all the stuff that you're too busy to do. So I just thought
Yeah.
I'd mention that
Well,
because,
I will say this: if you are, because most people listening are not like full-time writers, right? They're not doing that. I
yeah,
get that. Obviously, for somebody like Alan, getting up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever to write, that's like that's what he loves doing. That's and most writers are that way. We want to carve
yeah.
out time to write.
But
I struggle with that myself.
podcasters are the same. Find a time
Yeah.
that works for you and just do it. That's the
But what
best
I
way
would
to do
say
it.
for that busy business owner, if you're trying to improve, um, I would say do something like this: get you a Loom account or a Neato account or a Whisper Flow app, and dictate your thoughts and your ideas. Okay, take it to Claude and say, "This is my unvarnished thoughts on this subject. Help me," because LLMs have at least the basis of writing it built into the system, right? Like everything from grammar to formatting.
Yeah.
You'll even find it has some good copywriting principles built in. You can probably get a good prompt, but help me write this better so that I can post on LinkedIn and not feel like I'm shortchanging anybody. That is one way that you can improve without writing every day. I know everybody can't write every day, but really, I think because you get when you do one of those like Loom, Neato, or Whisperflow, or whatever you want to use, you get a transcript out of that. So you have your raw written words. It's going to be unvarnished. You're gonna have the uhs and I don't know. You're gonna have you're riffing, and I think that's great. Do that. Get it out of your head because the goal of writing is not to necessarily to be writing to write better, although that's a byproduct. The goal of writing is to get your thoughts out and clarify them, crystallize them. I like to use that word, crystallize. You start talking about something. People find this is a secret maybe that's not talked about so much about writing outside of the writing world. When you write or you go through the process, you crystallize your thoughts on something. You make it clear. You yourself go on a journey. I have written so many articles. I started with this idea, and by the time I got done, it went a different direction, and I had a different idea about what I thought when I started. That is the part about writing I think many people don't think about, especially
Yep.
if you're a busy business owner, you don't do it every day. If you realize, if you allow yourself to realize that writing will clarify what you're thinking, because you're getting it out of your head and you're working with the words and you're building crystallizing that idea, and it becomes your content IP, to borrow from Brendan Hufford, your content intellectual property. And that is huge, especially for an expertise type business. If you're a coach or consultant, you rely on your expertise. Now, here's the other thing. Many coaches and consultants already have probably hours and hours of transcripts from coaching calls,
Yep.
consulting calls, that kind of stuff that, that has all that value in it. Pull that out. You can drop that into Claude or Gemini or whatever and start building a bank of those ideas. Throw them in Notion or whatever you want to use, and you can work with those ideas. You've got to. I have seen people take coaching calls and turn them into books. It is doable. I watched in awe of last year as Jason Parker's copywriter I know took coaching calls. It's tons and tons of pages. I don't even know how much it was. Dropped them into Manus and had
Yeah.
it was just a showcase thing. Build a book for me based on all these coaching calls. And it was just, we just sit there and watched it. The video was over an hour. I mean, I didn't watch all that, but I was like, oh my gosh, he just dropped all these coaching calls in there, and it was whipping out a several page ebook straight from those coaching calls. So it's look for where you have talked about this stuff. because we're busy. You're busy. You're a coach. You're consultant. You don't have time to write all the time, but you have talked. So you can take that and build your idea bank straight from those coaching calls. You can even make an PDF ebook that you can either sell or use the lead magnet. Now, you will probably have AI, Manus, or Gemini, or whatever you're using, Claude, to help you identify patterns and things that make it more cohesive. That's absolutely fine. I did a lot of that with my book, Musings of an Arkansas Storyteller. All I did was take all these emails I'd written over probably 2-3 year period. I had to strip them out. That was not easy to do, but I had to strip them out. Gemini helped me with that. I dropped them in Claude. I said, is there a book here? Basically, I don't know what I said, but something like that. Is there a book here? Is there a theme? He said, yeah, absolutely. It helped me rearrange it, turn it into a book. Yeah, when you're busy, you're not a writer, which is fine. You don't have to sit down at, the same day every day and try to write. Now, if you want to give it a go, maybe 30 minutes a day, pick a time, maybe at lunch, 12:30 to 1, I'm going to write about a topic. But otherwise, I would take what's already existing, transcripts from coaching calls and consulting and webinars and podcasts you're on. That's gold mine of material to build your own content IP bank. So that's that's one way. Again, I don't think the goal is to improve writing, although I think repetition improves. It's just like, we're getting ready to have college football, right? What have they been doing all summer? They've been working out, throwing passes. All that's repetition to get stronger, to get better, to get crisper. So that applies to anything you do. But for a business owner, the goal isn't necessarily to get better. The goal is to be more clear. Agreed. And you get more clear by interacting with your thoughts. And sometimes you have to get it out or find where you've already pulled it out. You will find you got more than you realize when you start looking back at recordings and stuff. That's my take.
No question. Todd, thanks for the AMA. Great answers. Didn't put you on the spot too bad. And appreciate all the advice. I hope some people get what they need out of this. Go on over to Copyflight, follow Todd, hire Todd, buy his frameworks or systems. They're really worth buying. And as always, thanks so much and have a great day, Todd.
Have a good day.
Thanks again to our sponsor, All-in-One WP Migration by ServeMask. Export your entire WordPress site in one click, import it anywhere. No server access needed, no command line, works with every hosting provider. Free on WordPress.org, or extension at servemask.com. A very special thank you to Todd Jones for joining me on this edition of the SDM Show. The SDM Show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And, of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.